Well, the good news is that we do have America's celebrities to help us out here in this particular crisis. And without America's celebrities, what would we do? So first we had Joy Behar. So Joy Behar from The View, she noted her own disquiet with the situation in Ukraine because she knows the real cost of Russia taking over Ukraine. It's gonna mess with her trip to Italy, guys. I mean, the heart breaks just a little for Joy Behar.
We're talking about 5 million people that are going to be displaced.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heartbreaking to hear what is going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I'm scared of what's going to happen in Western Europe, too.
Yeah.
You know, you plan a trip, you want to go there. I want to go to Italy for 4 years. I haven't been able to make it because of the pandemic. And now this, it's like, what's going to happen there?
Yeah.
I mean, man, if her trip to Italy gets screwed with, wow. I mean, that's when you know that the world has really gone haywire. She couldn't get to Italy because of COVID. And now she might not get to Italy because Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. And all those grandmothers with guns trying to defend their apartments from invading Russian soldiers. I think they should have in mind tonight just a little prayer for Joy Behar and her trip to Rome. That's really where the heart breaks. The heart breaks. But there are some solutions that are being posited. So for one, there's a woman named AnnaLynne McCord who is on 90210? I think she's been irrelevant for a few decades, but she is suddenly relevant again because she has hit upon the solution to the Ukraine crisis. And that is reading poetry to Vladimir Putin about how she should have been his mother. Yes, this is it's a weird world. This lady will eventually be president of the United States the way we are going. Here's AnnaLynne McCord.
Dear President Vladimir Putin, I'm so sorry that I was not your mother. If I was your mother, you would have been so loved, held in the arms of joyous light. Never would the stories plight the world unfurled before our eyes, a pure demise of nations sitting peaceful under a night sky. If I was your mother, the world would have been warm. So much laughter and joy, and nothing would harm. I can't imagine the stain, the soul-stealing pain that the little boy you must have seen and believed, and the formulation of thought quickly taught that you lived in a cruel, unjust world.
Well, if the hot girl from the OC had been Vladimir Putin's mom, all of this could have been prevented. By the way, I do enjoy the low key just bagging on Vlad's mom. The converse of what she's saying is that Putin had a terrible mother. That's obviously why he is the way he is. Must have been that she just beat him with a stick or something. That's why he is. It can't be that he is a geopolitically motivated thug dictator wishing to expand Russia's boundaries. The real problem is that he has childhood angst. It's that he had social anxiety when he was a kid and his mother didn't hold him and cuddle him enough. Now, what's funny about this is that basically that is the view of the left. The view of the left is that Vladimir Putin is insane or irrational or pathological in some way, and that the way that you get through to Vladimir Putin is kindness. Kindness, maybe a little bit of economic sanctions, a little bit. Wouldn't want to go too far. After all, he has to be part of the family of nations. We need his help on climate change. We need his help with Iran. The world is filled with beautiful people who have different cultures from our own that we will not try to pretend to understand in any way. We'll just assume they want the same stuff that we do. And because we assume they want the same stuff as we do, if we offer them that stuff, they'll probably do what we want them to do. And then when they don't want to do that, then we will assume that it's because they had some sort of brutal childhood trauma and they're pathological. I'm not sure there's any more solipsistic culture on planet Earth than the culture of the West at this point. We are so obsessed with our own stupidities that not only do we engross ourselves in these stupidities to the exclusion of world events, but then we assume that everybody else is also engrossed in these stupidities. By the way, this crosses all political lines. You see this on the right, you see this on the left. In the United States, there's this weird habit of assuming that because we have a thing going on here, that this means the rest of the world doesn't matter. This is the habit of sort of the isolationist right. Now, we have a lot of problems here. We have a lot of problems with wokeness in the schools. True. We have a problem with critical race theory. True. We have a problem with gender fluidity being taught to small children. True. Therefore, we shouldn't do anything about Ukraine. Huh? Right? That sort of solipsistic navel-gazing is not helpful to people who are about to be blown up by Vladimir Putin, for example, or to the Taiwanese. And it turns out that foreign policy does have an impact on your real life because when shipping lanes get cut off in the South China Sea, all the stuff that you like is no longer available. And by the way, when you have rival civilizations that are rising, this also has an impact on the confidence and future of the country in which you live. And so that's from the right. From the left, you have this view that really what the people of the world want is the transgenderism. What they really, really want is a left-wing point of view about democratic socialism expanded to them. And so if we just cut them a few checks, if we massage their back, if we hold them in the warm embrace of motherhood, then magically they will come around and they will just be the best people. They will be our friends because at heart, freedom and liberty will win. But our style of freedom, our style of liberty, they have the same priorities that we do. So on the isolationist right, the idea is they have different priorities than we do. Therefore, we shouldn't care about what happens outside our own borders at all. And then on the surrender-oriented left, the idea is they have the same priorities that we do. They just don't know it yet. So we will try to throw things at them. We'll try to give them carrots. And then if they spit in our face, then we will assume that there's something wrong with them. But there's not much that we can do about that. After all, deep down in the cockles of their heart, they know that we are right and they wish to live the way we do. Or alternatively, all of this is wrong. And the world is filled with a lot of people with a lot of different ambitions. And you have to look in steely-eyed fashion at what people want and how they intend to achieve those objectives and whether you seek to impede those objectives with actual measures designed to prevent them from achieving those objectives. That's how you do foreign policy. But nobody seems to want to do foreign policy that way. And that's why you end up with the mess that you have in Ukraine. By the way, it ain't going to end in Ukraine. I know right now everybody's got their eyes on Eastern Europe and Latvia and Estonia, Lithuania. The notion that Vladimir Putin is going to invade those particular countries, I think that's unlikely in the near future. I think he's perfectly happy with having carved off this giant chunk the size of Texas in the middle of Eastern Europe. Seems like a pretty good start for his global empire. But the place we should be looking right now is, of course, Taiwan. And we're not. The Biden administration is more focused on all of the things that they say everybody else should be focused on: climate change, racial equality and justice, systemic injustice and systemic racism and income inequality and all the other nonsense causes that they've dedicated their lives to. That's where they're going to focus until precisely the moment that China makes a move on Taiwan, at which point there will again be a lot of navel gazing and some talk about sanctions, but we wouldn't want to sanction China too toughly. I mean, after all, since the 1970s, we've basically admitted that Taiwan was a part of China. So do we really have a leg to stand on here? This pattern will be repeated until the West decides to get lean and mean and hungry again and realize that what motivates it doesn't necessarily motivate everybody else, but that what motivates us is good if we look to the heart of what our civilization ought to be and was. Yeah, but until that point, they're gonna take the Stalin line. You push where there's mush. You just push as far as you can until somebody stops you. Ain't nobody stopping Vlad. Ain't nobody stopping the Chinese yet. So that means they're going to continue pushing. So get ready for things to get a lot worse. Did you know that every single like creates one additional leftist tier? That is just science.